and create various technologies. Humans continue to evolve, build ourselves and our surroundings in their ways, collaborate with different expertise to bring novelties. Postgraduate programs of ITS, a place where research and innovation open our future.
Institut Teknologi 10 November is one of the best higher education institutions in Indonesia that accommodates many fields of knowledge for the development of science and technology, contributing to the advancement of industry and society. ITS offers many master and doctoral programs that facilitate students as early career researchers to deepen their expertise. As a higher education institution with a research orientation, ITS is committed to providing the best learning experience and atmosphere for all students to become experts in their field.
There are many ways for us to learn. We get to know the world we live in more closely by looking around. It helps us to grow our curiosity.
ITS is the best place for us to explore things we are interested in, such as science, management, information technology, and maritime engineering. ITS is facilitated with sophisticated laboratories and research equipment for various research projects. In ITS, we are able to express our idea and transform ourselves to be an expert.
There are many things that we can do to develop ourselves. Confidence to start is needed to transform the idea into real things. We can explore further through the technology around us. Also, we can improve ourselves to become better individuals.
ITS gave us the opportunity to expand our connections with people from other countries. Besides being able to deepen our knowledge, we made friends with various backgrounds. We were able to exchange ideas and discuss the topics we researched together. We also got assistance from competent experts in fields that match our research topics, helping us to achieve an objective research with validated data.
There are many goals that we can achieve. Let us show who we are and discover the things that we have been looking for in life.
ITS is one of the points where we start a profession that has more impact on society. Many experiments we do to better understand the problems we want to solve. We explore things that are very useful in managing a release industry. So we are very motivated to have a hand in bringing about change for the better.
There are many paths where we can walk together. Even if not all ways are easy, there will be times when we can achieve our goals. The goals for us who keep curious. For us who want to innovate. For us who continue to evolve. Postgraduate programs of ITS. World-class research university.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you for joining our last session for this semester on researcher and research student enrichment program. And today we will have Miss Gail Milligan. I address her as a Gail. We can call you Gail, yeah?
Yes.
Miss Gail Milligan is from Bristol, UK. And she will deliver today's lecture theme as Common Research Methodology in Your Field and Research Management Skill. And today our moderator is Dr. Afan Hamza. And I would like also to read his CV. He is one of our lecturer in ITS in chemical engineering. And his research interests are on enzyme immobilization and genetic engineering. Wow, this is interesting. And before we start, I would like to remind to the participant, don't forget to fill out the attendance form that will be shared. And we will close the attendance form until 20 minutes, okay? So please don't forget to fill out your attendance form. And later on, you will have also a chance to, you will have also a chance to have a question and answer. We will share you the form also for a question and answer, or you can chat through the chat box, okay? Without further ado, I will give the floor to Dr. Afan. Dr. Afan?
Okay. Hello everyone. Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Kiki and Mbak Devi. Sorry.
That's okay, Pak.
Welcome to this session, everyone, for all participants. Welcoming our distinguished speaker, Kel Milliken from UI Bristol, UK. In this session, we have a very interesting topic that is common research methodology in your field and research management skill. And this is our speaker. The profile is she has 20 years experience in academic consultation and research in higher education teaching, learning, and assessment, with particular focus on educational technology, the student experience, and quality assurance and compliance. And right now, she is Deputy Partnership Manager in Asia Pacific for UI Bristol, and has many professional experience like a subject matter expert and Department for Education, etc. Without further ado, time is yours, Gail.
Hey, thank you, Afan. Good afternoon, students, and welcome to today's session, where I'm going to talk about research skills and how you can use academic research skills when you are writing your master's dissertation or your PhD dissertation, and some of the methodologies that are used to find the information that you need for your academic research. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so can everybody see the presentation? So first of all, we are going to look at what is academic research? What is it all about? Why is it different to other types of research, and some of the skills and strategies that you can use as students when you are researching information for your master's dissertation or your PhD doctorate. Please ask any questions as we go along, and we will also have a question and answer session at the end. So what is academic research? So what is it all about? So it's about formulating questions. It's about observing. It's about planning your time. It's about collecting data. Now, this could be any kind of data depending on your field of study. And it's also recording that data and organizing it. And then you interpret that data to produce a set of results or findings. And then you will present your research either in a published paper, and lots of students are also asked to deliver a presentation about their research to reinforce their understanding of a particular topic. Now, academic research fits across lots of disciplines. So whether you are studying chemical engineering, computer science, or a language, the same principles apply when you are researching information. So we're going to look at some of the strategies and the skills that you need to become a good academic researcher. So what are research skills? What type of skills do you need as a student to be able to carry out effective research? So you need to be able to be a good problem solver, because your research, your thesis, your dissertation is about solving a problem. So you need to have imagination and creativity. You need to have logic and reasoning. You need to be able to collect data. This could be any type of data relating to your research area. You need to be able to think conceptually. So that is how you will be able to solve the problem of your research topic. You also need to be able to disseminate information. So again, it's using those imagination and creativity skills, logic and reasoning, that conceptual thinking, and being able to reflect on your own ability and obtain feedback from your supervisor. You also need to be able to analyze. So you need to analyze information, data. You need to be able to collect data in different ways. It could be numerical data, it could be other types of data, and you need to be able to analyze that data using different types of tools. Again, you need to be able to reflect on the data that you have collected. What are the themes and trends that that data is showing you? And also, again, depending on your area of study, it may involve some scientific experimentation, where you have to carry out experiments in order to analyze data. You also need to be a critical thinker. And this is an area that many students, regardless of whether they are an undergrad student, a postgrad student, or doing a doctorate, sometimes struggle with that ability to be that critical thinker. Do they challenge arguments? Do they debate and reason? So again, the skills that you need is to be imaginative and creative, be able to think logically and be able to reason with people, be able to think conceptually, and be able to reflect and feedback. So reflection is an important part of research skills. It's reflecting on your own ability and reflecting on the information that you've found. So that is what research skills are. And as you progress through your studies, you should be able to develop those skills to become a good academic researcher. So what are the key skills involved in research? Again, depending on what subject you are studying and at what level you are, you need to have these types of skills. And even when you finish your dissertation, when you move into the world of work, you still need to have these skills. So basic computer skills, you need to be able to use a computer, use different software and applications to maybe analyze data, carry out experiments. You need to be able to think critically. You may also need to have financial management skills. If you are in charge of a budget as part of your research, you need to be able to manage that budget. You need to have the ability to summarize information. So if you've read a journal or an academic article or a thesis, you need to be able to summarize the information that is contained within that information source. You also need to be good at time management. And this is an important skill for lots of different areas, not just in your academic studies, but also in your career. Being able to multitask, do lots of different things at the same time, make sure you hit deadlines. Your dissertation, you will have a deadline to submit to your supervisor, you will have a deadline to publish your research, and you also need to be precise. Your research has to be accurate and correct and raise the points that you are trying to convey in your topic area. So why are research skills important? Why do you need them as a student? So they are one of the most important parts of academic writing. So research skills helps you to locate appropriate information. So the information that is related to your study area, and you need to be able to look at that information and decide or evaluate it for quality and relevance. It allows you to also make good use of information to resolve a problem, answer a question, and complete assignments. So your research topic will be a problem or a question. You need to be able to make use of the information to answer that question or solve the problem. Research skills also give you the ability to communicate your ideas in writing, because you will write a thesis, and also in spoken formats, because at some point you will have to talk about your research, either to your supervisor, it could be to your employer. So you need to be able to communicate your research in different formats. And research skills also help you to develop your critical thinking skills. So being a critical thinker is really important in today's world. So that ability to challenge questions, to debate areas, and not believe everything that you read. And research skills are transferable. They can be adapted and they apply to many different settings in academia and the workplace. So once you complete your studies and you move into the world of work, your research skills will transfer and you will still be using them. You could be doing market research, you could be doing research for a project that you are working on. So that's why academic research skills are transferable. And just to let you know, mention what transferable skills are. Transferable skills are what every employer wants from an employee. And these are skills that you develop as a student over a period of time. So learning, IT skills, the ability to be a self-manager, critical thinking again, handling information and data, communicating, managing your career, setting goals if you want to become a manager or director or CEO. What do you need to do to get there? Working in teams. Every job in society involves team working. Although you may work most of the time independently, you will at some point have to work in a team. And you also need numerical skills. Now, some careers require more numerical skills than others, but you need to have a standard set of numerical skills. So these are what we call transferable skills, and every employer in the world wants their employees to not only have their subject discipline in engineering or in business or in computer science, they also want their employees to have these transferable skills. And you develop these as part of your academic research. So before you begin any piece of research, you should have a clear understanding of the due date for your research. So when do you need to submit your theses? And then work backwards from that date. You also need the size of the research. What is the word count? Most postgraduate and PhD dissertations are in the region of 10,000 words plus. Some may be more. So you need to look at what the word count of your research is. What is the research question that you are trying to answer, or the hypothesis that you are testing? You need to be sure you understand what it is asking of you. What is the scope of your research? Do you have to look at a topic over a period of time? So it could be you carrying out some research that spans over 2 or 3 years, or could span 20 years. Your research may involve looking at different countries or age groups. So you need to look at, again, what the research question is. What is it asking of you? You also need to have a clear understanding of what methodology you are expected to use. For example, does your research include primary or secondary research? Do you have to carry out some primary research through a questionnaire or data collection? Will you conduct a literature review or a series of experiments? So again, this will depend on your subject area, and it will depend on the research question or hypothesis that you are trying to test. Keywords and terms are really important part of your research, and remembering these and keep referring back to them will help you to stay focused on your research question. Use techniques like brainstorming or mind mapping techniques, and we're going to look at some of the different types of techniques you can use to help you with your research as we move through this session. And also think about who are the key theorists or publications related to your subject area. Sometimes there are a few big names or giants or milestone contributions. Make sure to consult and to reference these in your work. So again, depends on what topic you are studying. But there may be some really important publications or important writers who have proven a theory that you need to incorporate into your literature review or within your research. So just to summarize, when you are researching, think about your topic. Don't be too vague or too specific, and use keywords. So break your research question down into keywords and also synonyms. And we'll look at how you can do that as we move through the session. Read broadly around your subject. Don't just use search engines. There are lots of academic databases out there. Some are very general, some are very specific to various subject areas. And again, I'm going to mention some of those databases which are free for you to use as an academic student. As I've said, use academic subject databases and use search strategies to refine your search and limit your results. Use your university library catalogue, which will allow you to search across all of the resources within your library, as well as the subject databases that are used within your university. Your university library is a wealth of information, and they will link to other subject databases as well. Carry out a literature review of existing journals, books, websites, data, and statistics. So look at what's already out there that relates to your subject area and start collecting that data. Some of it will be very relevant, some may be irrelevant, but start collecting that information using different sources of information. Also, evaluate your sources. There's so much information out there. We live in a digital society. We have databases, we have search engines, we have publications, we have existing research. How do we know that that information is current, is relevant, it has authority, is accurate, and it is fit for purpose? And we're going to look at the CROP theory of how you can evaluate sources of information to make sure that they are current, relevant, authoritative, accurate, and are fit for purpose. Enrich considered conclusions and make recommendations where necessary. Every piece of research has to reach a conclusion. That will be the final part of your dissertation, where you conclude your research question or your hypotheses, you conclude all of the information, the data, the statistics you have found, and then make recommendations as to how your research could be continued by other students. So let's have a look at ways that you can effectively search for information. One of the most important ways of finding information from the wealth of resources that we have online is by using what we call Boolean operators, and, or not. We're going to look at how those work later on. Read abstracts from journals, because the abstract will give you an overview as to what that piece of existing research is about. So journals, existing research, a PhD thesis will always have an abstract which summarizes what that piece of research is about. Check bibliographies for more sources. they can point you in directions where you can look at other sources of information. And as you are researching, make a note of all of the sources of information you have used, because you will need to use and include them in your reference list or when you are citing them in your research, in your theses. I've come across many students who carry out some really effective research. They've found lots of really good sources of information. But when I've asked them, where did you find that information from? They can't tell me because they did not make a note of the source of information. And you can't just say Google. Okay, so even if you are not going to use that source of information, you should still make a note of it, because you might use it further along the line. So let's have a look at how we find and use information using different tools. So as I've said, there's lots of different tools out there to help you as a student find the right information for your thesis. So let's have a look at how you plan, search, and know what tools to use. So where do you start? When you have your research area or an assessment or a task, start by breaking it down into smaller, what we call bite-sized pieces, to focus on what the topic is about that you need to research. So the research question or the hypothesis or the task is what you have been asked to do. It will then guide the depth and direction of your research. The topic is your area of focus of study, okay? Because you work in a very broad subject area, for example, chemical engineering, but you are not carrying research out on the whole topic of chemical engineering. You will be focusing on a specific area. So by breaking it down into keywords, it will help you form a search strategy to find relevant and accurate information. And by doing this, it will help you search for the sources of information that you need for your academic research. Search skills. Okay, when we're looking for information, we do this every single day. Not in an academic sense, but when we are shopping online, booking, travel, accommodation, or searching for movies and music, you are using search skills. You're just using them in a more basic, general way when we're using a search engine, but you are still using search skills. With academic research, you're using similar skills, but you are focusing on specific areas to look for. So let's have a look at this example. So this example, we're going to break down the task. You're going to establish what information you need, the type of source you should use to find the information, and then you know what you're looking for and can start your search. So this is just a general task. So you've been asked by your tutor as a task, as part of your studies, to find one book and one journal article on the impact of climate change on Asian agriculture. So you look at the task, you start breaking it down. So you need to find sources of information. What are they? Well, from the question, you need to find one book and one journal article. The first topic that you need to focus on is climate change. And we look at that as a topic or a keyword. The second topic, which will then help you to refine your search results so you can find the information you need, is Asian agriculture. Again, what a lot of students make the mistake of doing is they don't break down the research question or the task or the hypotheses. So when they start searching for information, they don't find the right information. It's either too broad. So if you were carrying out this task and you just were searching for climate change, you would get lots of information about climate change in general. But by including the second topic, Asian agriculture, you are specifying what area of climate change you want to find information about. And this is what we call selecting search terms or keywords. So it applies to your academic, your dissertation, your research question. So look at it and break it down into keywords. The research tools that you have available to you, you will have a reading list from your supervisor, your tutors for a particular topic. That's an excellent source of research. You have search engines, Google, Baidu, Bing. I've already mentioned your university library will have the facility. If you at UE, the university that I work for, we have an online library. So we also have a physical library with lots and lots of books, but we also have an online library where you can access e-books online and journals. You can also use Google Scholar, which is a good source for academic information. So these are some of the tools that are available to you, and they are all free. You will also have academic subject databases. Some of them are general, so Google Scholar, Gestor, and EBSCO. So they cover lots of different areas. So just like searching, when you're using a search engine, you would search an academic subject database in the same way. You use keywords to find information. If you are studying a humanities or social science subject, Project Moose is a good academic subject database. Medline for life sciences and biomedicine, EconLit for economics, and InSpec for engineering and computer science related disciplines. So depending on your subject area that you are researching, these are some really good databases that you can use. You may have already used a subject database before in your studies. You may not have, but we're going to have a look at how you can use keywords to search for specific information. Also, get connected. Some of you are already employed in jobs. Some of you aren't, but find organisations or individuals who work in your subject area. Look at their websites, their blogs, sign up for alerts, follow them on social media using social media apps like Twitter or LinkedIn to get alerts about new publications or comment about things that are happening in the media. So this is a really good way of getting connected with other people who share the same research interests as you, and they can be a really good source of information. So as I said, use keywords. You use keywords when you are shopping online, booking a holiday. But what you then can do is then use filters to refine your search. So this is an example on the screen. Find 3 examples of pseudoscience in relation to climate change denial. So what are the keywords in that topic? So pseudoscience, climate change denial would be the search terms that you would use when you are using a subject database, when you're using a search engine. Again, what a lot of students do is they will copy and paste the whole sentence into a search engine and wonder why the results that they get are not very accurate, they're not very good. Okay, but by using specific keywords will narrow down your search. As I mentioned, use filters. Again, when you're shopping online, you may be looking for a specific movie. You would start using filters to narrow down that search. And subject databases have filters in the same way. So, for example, you may only want to find journal articles. You may only want to find information within a specific time frame. If you're carrying out current research, then you would only want to look at current publications. You wouldn't want to look at materials or information that was published 20 years ago. So that you can use publication date as a filter. You can also use subject filters to start refining your subject area. And again, filters are available just like they are in a search engine, they are available in academic databases. You may want to look for a specific author or a language. You may want to only focus on information that's been published in your own language, or you may want to look at information that's published only in English. So you can use those filters to narrow down the search to find the information that you are looking for to include in your thesis. Phrase searching is a way of using 2 or more keywords. When you are searching for information, you enter the keywords into the search box, but the search engine, Google or the search database, will look for those words as individual words. For example, if you are looking for information about sustainable climate, it would be searched as sustainable and climate. So it would find everything available that mentions the word sustainable, and it would also look for things that included the word climate. But that is not what you are looking for. You are looking for the keywords or the phrase sustainable climate. So if you want to search for an exact phrase, use quotation marks. So for example, you're looking for sustainable climate, you include quotation marks, as shown in the example. It will retrieve sources where both words appear together as a phrase. So let's have a go, okay, just so you can see. Open up your search engine, carry out 2 searches. One, just put in the words sustainable climate, see what results you achieve. Carry out the same search, but include quotation marks, and you will see a very different set of results. And as you can see from the example, so where we're looking for this is just using Google. Again, subject databases work in the same way. Google will find everything that includes the words sustainable and climate. But what we want to know, we're looking for the phrase sustainable climate, and by including that search term in quotation marks, we get a very different set of results. So bear that in mind when you are searching for information. If you are looking for a specific phrase, put it in quotation marks. For example, chemical engineering in the 20th century. Here you want to find information about that. By including the phrase in quotation marks, we'll only find results that is about chemical engineering in the 20th century. If you don't include the quotation marks, it will include things about 20th century and include things about chemicals and include things about engineering, which is not what you're looking for. And it makes it harder for you to trawl through all of the information to pick out what is relevant and what is not relevant. So you're looking for all of the information that you need. You've found lots and lots of information. How do you know that that information is good? How do you know it's accurate? How do you know it's current? So let's have a look at how we can use digital skills or digital literacy to search online to evaluate sources of information for your theses or your assignments.
So it is true. Indigenous people from the Arctic have 100 different words for snow. That's an amazing fact. Or is it? Everybody knows that we can use digital resources to find information we need. Think about how many times we do this in a day. What's the next train home? What will the weather be like tomorrow? What messages have I received from my tutor on my distance learning course? We all use online information services, but are we using them effectively? We need to think about effective ways to search for information. Today, we are looking at using the internet to search for information and do research for our distance learning studies. But the internet is so full of so much information. What is the best way to find information? And how far can we trust what we find? Think about all the ways you find information online. You probably use a search engine like Google or Bing, or one that's popular in your country. Search engines are fantastically useful, but they usually show links to other websites. So you need to critically evaluate those sites to know if the information there is reliable. Imagine if you used incorrect information you found online in one of your university assignments. You won't get good marks like that. Luckily, your academic institution may provide you a list of trusted sources. As a good distance learner, you are expected to do additional research to find additional information. So you need to critically evaluate what you find online. As well as websites, many people now use social media as a source of information. We need to be even more critical here to avoid incorrect, false, or even deliberately fake information. It's a good idea to question everything you find online in all areas of your life, as well as for your distance learning needs. So, why should we be so cautious when using online for searching for information? To put it simply, you could easily find incorrect information. If the information you find is wrong, then you'll get poor marks in your assignments. Just the same as if the train times you find online are wrong, you could be in for a long walk home. So let's talk about how to make sure you are finding and using information online correctly. Firstly, you need to build up your list of trusted sources. These are sources that you know have a high level of credibility. Your tutors can help you with this, but you also need to be able to evaluate sources you find online. Many distance learners use online forums and wikis such as Quora, Yahoo Answers, and Wikipedia to find information. Now, for everyday life, these can be useful resources. But for distance learners, they should only be used as a starting point for study. You can research more fully by going to the sources referenced in articles on sites like Wikipedia. Now, if they are reputable, then you can use them as a resource. You can also use academic search engines such as Google Scholar or R2SEP. Similarly, we need to avoid untrusted sources. Unfortunately, social media is full of examples of incorrect information. So, just because somebody posts a story on social media, don't just accept it as fact. You need to do more research to see if the information is credible. Another important aspect of online research is avoiding online plagiarism. Plagiarism is an important word for all students. It means taking other people's work and claiming it is your own. This is a serious matter in academic study and can result in serious consequences. It's fine to look at other people's work and use it as a source, but you have to cite your references. This means stating exactly where the information has come from. Another important skill for students. Citing references is a requirement for all academic institutions, so your distance learner provider will supply you with guidelines on how to do it. So that's an introduction to finding information online. There is a world of resources out there, but always be careful in how you use it.
Hey, I hope you found that useful, and it's just reiterating the point that don't believe everything that you find online, and build up your list of credible sources of information. And we're going to look at another theory or technique that you can apply when you have found this information, which is called CROP, but we'll have a look at that in a bit. Oops. So remember, when you find information sources that you are going to use in your literature review, in your dissertation, find the most relevant information or research for your topic. Ensure quality, accuracy, and reliability in your sources. Remove any bias or incorrect or outdated information. And ensure you are using sources appropriate for your assignment. Okay, you shouldn't be using social media. Okay, the level of study that you're at. Social media is exactly what it is. It's a social thing. It shouldn't come into your academic studies. Okay, so here's a question for you. Evaluating sources of information helps you get better marks because, okay, so please put your answer in the chat. Is it A, B, C, or D? Yes, well done. Excellent, it's all of the above. Okay, so that's great. You know why it's important to evaluate the sources of information. So we've talked about types of information, sources of information. Let's have a look at what they actually are, because you will be using all of these in your academic research. So books, ebooks, journal articles, newspapers, conference papers, theses, standards, so these are professional standards, government reports, maps, and you'll be using the internet. So when you're doing your academic research, you will be using all of these different types of information sources. Now, information sources are broken down into 3 areas: primary, secondary, tertiary source. So just have a quick look at that table. If you may already know what is meant by primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, but look at the different examples, because you will be looking at these different sources within your research. And then I've got a bit of a quiz to test whether you know. Okay, so let's have a look at some different sources of information. And again, it's over to you to decide whether these sources of information are primary, secondary, or tertiary. So what is this? Is it primary, secondary, or tertiary? Please just pop in the chat box PS or T, or type the word. Yes, it's a primary source because it's a birth certificate. What about this? Which is some references. Is it primary, secondary, or a tertiary source of information? It's a tertiary source of information when you're using references. What about this book? Is this primary, secondary, or tertiary? It's a secondary source of information. What about Wikipedia? And just to point out, and I'm sure you all already know, Wikipedia is a great source of information, but you should never reference it in your academic work. It's a tertiary source of information. What about this? Primary, secondary, or tertiary? The primary source that somebody's notes of research, their data collection. What about this? It's a letter. It's a primary source because it's written by the originator. About this source, primary, secondary, tertiary. It's a secondary source. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at some sources to see whether they are reliable or unreliable. So type reliable or unreliable in the chat box. Actually, we're going to watch a video first about how you determine whether information is reliable or unreliable using a theory called CROP. Okay. And by applying this theory to information sources, you will get some really good sources of information.
So, you have a paper to write and you need to find information about your topic. The information is out there in different types of documents, books, articles, websites, and more. But there's a problem. Many of these sources are not appropriate for your paper. Some of them are irrelevant. Some of them are outdated. And some of them are just plain wrong. Your job is to distinguish between the good sources and the bad sources. This can be tricky, but here's a tool you can use to help. It's called the CROP test. No, not crap, CROP. It's an acronym. It stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. These are the characteristics of good sources. Let's talk about what each one means. First, currency. Currency is how current or new a document is. If a document is too old, it might not cover recent discoveries. So, how current does a document need to be? Well, it depends on two things. First, is this a science topic or a humanities topic? The sciences change rapidly. If you're writing about a science topic, you have to find recent documents in order to keep up with new information. The humanities change more slowly. A document in the humanities can be useful even if it's several decades old. The social sciences are in between. Second, is it a historical document? Historical documents are valuable because they're old. They provide first-hand reports of historic events. They don't need to be current. Next is relevance. If you're writing about Shakespeare, a book about dolphins is not going to help you. Even if it's the best book ever written about dolphins, it's irrelevant. So the document needs to be about your topic, But even if it is, it can still be irrelevant if it's not written for an audience of scholars. For example, the magazines at grocery stores are irrelevant because they're written for the general public, not for scholars. Authority. Who's the author? How do we know that the author is an expert? It's hard to tell at a glance, but here are some things you can look for. Does the author have a degree in his or her field? Is the author affiliated with a university? Is there a list of other publications by the author? An author doesn't have to have all of these things to be an authority, but you'd expect to see at least some of them. If you don't see any of these things, try Googling the author's name. You can learn a lot about an author from his or her webpage. Okay, accuracy. Some documents are not accurate, or in other words, wrong. Sometimes it's easy to spot the mistakes, but some mistakes are more subtle, and you might not spot them. If you're not sure whether a document is accurate or not, a good rule of thumb is to look for citations. Citations show where the author got the information. You can go straight to the source and see what it says. Finally, purpose. Why did the author create the document? Some documents are created to inform or educate their readers. Those are the documents you want to find. But other documents are created for other purposes. Some are meant to be entertaining. Others are opinion pieces or propaganda. And a lot of authors, especially on the web, are trying to sell you something. If you're having trouble determining the purpose of a document, look for these clues. Where was the document published? In a journal? A magazine? A newspaper? A book? And what tone does the author use? If authors have an academic purpose in mind, they'll write in a formal tone. If they have some other purpose in mind, they might write in an informal tone. So, currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Crop. These are the differences between a good source and a bad source. If you have any questions about the crop test or about any other part of the research process, just ask a librarian. They'd love to help.
Hey, and just to finish off, the lesson, because I've just realized the time. Is this source a reliable or unreliable source? So just type reliable or unreliable in the chat box. Would you say Wikipedia is a reliable or unreliable source of information? It's an unreliable source, okay? So even though there's lots of information in there, it's classed as unreliable. What about this book? Is this a reliable or unreliable source of information? Would you use this in your research as a reliable source? It's a reliable source. What about this journal article? Is a journal article a reliable or unreliable source? Pop your answers in the chat box if you think you know. This unreliable source, because it's somebody's opinion. What about a peer-reviewed journal article? Would this be considered as a reliable or unreliable source of information? And you'll come across lots of journal articles in your research. It's a reliable source. It's a published piece of work, so it's reliable. What about a blog? Is a blog a reliable or unreliable source? Unreliable, because again, it's someone's opinions. And remember, people's opinions are biased, they're untrue. What about a post on Twitter or what's now known as X? Yes, it's unreliable. What about this piece of work, which is a journal article? Yeah, this is a reliable source of information. What about a newspaper? Yes, unreliable, because newspapers tend to be biased, so not always reliable sources of information. About a discussion forum. Yes, unreliable. A PhD thesis, which a lot of you will be producing in some time soon. Yes, because it's a published piece of work, reliable. And what about somebody's website? Yes, it's an unreliable source. So well done, everybody, for recognizing what is reliable and unreliable. So remember the crop test. So when you're looking, you've found all of this information that's relevant or you think is relevant to your research, ask yourself these questions. Is it current? Is it relevant? What is the authority of that information source? What is the accuracy of it? And what is the purpose? So by applying the CROP methodology to sources of information will help you define or find good sources of information for your research. Okay, so I have just realized the time, and I know you are all working people. I could talk a lot longer about research methods, but I've just realized that we need to stop the session because we have a limited amount of time. But I hope to be able to come back and be able to talk to you a bit more about research methods, look at different search strategies, and how we can use Boolean operators to find information using different subject databases. So I'm going to hand you back over to our host for today, and please ask any questions in the search box. So Afan, I'm going to hand back over to you because I'm a little bit concerned about the time now.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you students for your participation. I hope you found that useful as a start to your academic research and how you can use different sources. Thanks, Afan.
Thanks. You're welcome. Okay. For all participants, is there anyone wants to deliver their question directly? Please raise your hand, or you can write the question on the links or in the chat box. Is there anyone want to deliver the question directly? You can use the raise hand feature in the Zoom meeting.
Pak Afan, we have a question from the link. I sent
Okay.
you the link.
Okay. Okay, I check the link. So
I can't see the question. Is it in the chat?
okay, in the link there's some question. Okay, I will read the question for you, Kel.
Yes.
Yes, there's the question from Dedi Hartanto. He has a question: in a month, how many papers do we have to read to gain insight about good paper or novelty?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Yeah, that's a hard question.
It
Actually,
all depends on many factors, but I think what is key is time management. Okay, because you have to read so much information, you need to set aside time to be able to research and read the information as part of your academic research. Now, as a postgraduate student, I would recommend, I know some of you are working, I would spend at least maybe 4 or 5 hours a week is a minimum, reading around your subject area, making notes, writing down sources of information. It also depends on what the deadline is for your dissertation. If it was 6 months, then you need to read a lot more. But if you have 18 months, then you can spread that time out. And if I'm invited back to come and talk to you, we can look at what we call search strategies and time management and creating a research plan. So that would be something that we could possibly do for a future session. But it is about planning. It's about thinking ahead, thinking when your deadlines are, and dedicating some time per week to carry out research and reading. So I hope that answers your question. The key points is planning and managing your time and looking at your deadline, when your deadline is.
okay. There's some other interesting question from Muhammad Faisal Fahmi. He asks, how can we manage do you have any tips in manage the research paper or some references for to identify the novelty, or is there any tools or tips?
Sorry, I didn't, you broke up a bit. Tips about what?
About how we manage our paper or some references to produce some novelty in paper.
Okay, so when you come to write your dissertation, a dissertation will usually follow a standard format. Okay, you will have an abstract, which is the overview of your research. You will have an introduction or a literature review. You will have the main body, which is the findings of your research, and then you will have the conclusion and recommendations. Okay, now depending on what the word count is for your dissertation, you would need to look. So say, for example, master's dissertations at my university at UE are usually about 10,000 words. So because you have 10,000 words to work with, but you have 3 areas to write, I would spread the number of words across the 3 areas. So approximately 3,000 to 4,000 words per area. The main part of your dissertation or your research will be the findings. Okay, so maybe you may need 7,000 words, again, depending on your area, your subject area. Okay, some dissertations require you to carry out a literature review. So the literature review would form part of your introduction. So that might take about 2,000 or 3,000 words. So again, it all depends on the word count and what your area of research is. Because if you need to collect lots and lots of data and analyze that data, that will form a big part of what we call the findings of your dissertation. And you have to analyze all this data and then talk about what that data is showing you. And then that would lead into your conclusion. But when you come to write your dissertation, you will have a supervisor who will be able to help you break down each area, and usually a supervisor you would show examples, they would review your work, and they would give you feedback to make sure that you're answering the question, you're using the right sources. So make sure that when you start your research, you connect with your dissertation supervisor, you go to all of the meetings with your supervisor, because they are going to be a wealth of knowledge to keep you on the right path for your research. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Okay, there's a participant that wants to deliver the question directly. Please, Arif,
Yes.
you can deliver your question.
All right, thank you. Let me lower my hand for a second here. So I have a few questions.
Yes.
It's not just one question, but it's multiple. So I think it's better if I just talk directly. So my first question is related to the crab tracer. The crab test, essentially about in some specific domain. I have a hobby, and my hobby is astronomy. And sometimes when I have to look at papers that is literally decades or even sometimes centuries old, and because nobody has done research on this specific thing. Like, for example, like one of those things that I was searching for, like the cross-dimensional axis of one of the moons of Jupiter for long-range gravity precession, stuff like that. It's mostly a hobby. And one of the stuff I found is like, oh, while the paper is very limited, but there's, interestingly enough, the Wikipedia page is actually really good. Like they describe the phenomenon and they even have citation for it. So like, I just want to kind of want your opinion. It's like, while Wikipedia itself is generally is unreliable, can we trust the citations that the Wikipedia provides? Because if you scroll down, there's a citation list. So are those citations in Wikipedia are those mostly reliable? Can we trust those citations in Wikipedia? So that's my first question.
Yeah. So what you would do, obviously Wikipedia as a source of information is unreliable, but you're right to look at the citations. So you, with the citation, try and find the source, okay? And then look at that source of information, and then that could very well be reliable. And because astronomy is a very limited subject, it's not a broad subject area, it's highly likely that there's a lot of research that is very reliable, because to be an astronomer, you need to have a lot of equipment, there's a lot of science involved with it. And usually they are experts who do write papers on astronomy. They're linked to NASA and other big organizations who investigate the stars in the sky. So I would say, because of your subject area, it's highly likely that a lot of the sources are going to be reliable. And depending on what the source is in, for example, if it was in a newspaper, then you know that, because it's a biased opinion. But if it's in a journal article, a book, then, or an ebook, then it's probably likely that that source will be reliable. And like I said, the citations from Wikipedia go to the actual source of the citation, okay? Because there is some valid information in Wikipedia, but we can't class it overall as a reliable source, but the information that feeds into Wikipedia, a lot of it tends to be reliable. Yeah. So yes, thank you for that question,
Okay,
Alan.
can I ask my second question, Mr. Raffas?
Okay, okay, please deliver your question.
So my second question is mostly related to research here. Like, while my master's isn't in astronomy, my main master is in electrical engineering, actually. And one of the things that I'm kind of not afraid, more of a question is like, is my research original enough? Like, how would you define new and form original research? Like, oh, I changed this one variable, I changed this one specific variable, and it increases, and the end result is increase in efficiency by 1 to 2%. It's like, is that considered new enough, or maybe should my target be better? Should my target be 10%, or should maybe I'm looking at the wrong subject here? Maybe I shouldn't focus on, say, efficiency. Maybe I should look at something else. Like where should I focus? So my research should be considered original. Should I focus on like one specific thing by just changing or fine tuning this one tiny little variable, or maybe it's something else, or maybe I'm just running around in circles here? Like,
okay, so I think the key thing is, can your hypothesis be proven? So can you prove it? Okay, and then you talk about whether you should increase or decrease. Now that within your research, you will have limitations, and the limitations, as you are doing your research, you might find there's lots of problems, there's limitations, the scope of your research hasn't been broad enough, but then that's when you talk about it in your conclusions and you make recommendations for future research. So you would say, if this recommendations for further research would be to increase the efficiency, increase the speed, use a larger population, include more countries. So that is where research, that is what you would include in your recommendations, and all research should include recommendations, and research will include limitations as well. And one thing is, again, if you are unsure of the scope of your research, you should talk about it with your supervisor. Do you have you will have a dissertation supervisor? Yeah, talk about it with your supervisor, because they will usually give you the sign off. You produce your dissertation proposal, they will look at it, and then they would make suggestions as to whether they think, right, you need to include a bigger focus group. So that's why I think it's at your level, when you're doing research, use the advice from your dissertation supervisor. Okay, and make sure you have regular contact with them, you connect with them, because they are the ones that are going to guide you through. But like I say, as you're doing your research, you might find a few stumbling blocks. They form part of your research, and you write about it in your conclusions, the limitations that you've had, and you make recommendations for future research to increase the efficiency or whatever, because that's what research is all about, academic research. Okay, so I hope I've answered that question.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Mugen. Thank you for allowing me to have some questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think there's one question that's really interesting. Is there any criteria for how old the research paper can be cited, or is there any rules in the current research? It's how many years before we can use the research paper?
Okay, so this again depends on your topic. If you are looking, for example, at a current topic like climate change, you should be using recent articles within maybe the past 5 years. Because if you start looking at research that was carried out 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, the world is a very different place, and the environment has changed, the climate has changed, okay? But if you're researching on something like humanities or on a language, then it's highly likely that you're going to have to use older reference material because it doesn't become outdated. You know, if you're looking at different theorists like Marxists and things like that, you know, they were around a long time ago, so you would refer to them in your research. So again, it depends on your subject area. And remember the CROP test, which is about currency. You know, if you're looking at current technology would be a good one. If your research is related to technology, look how fast technology is changed. You shouldn't be citing things that are maybe even 5-10 years old, definitely not 10 years old, but you should be citing things within the past
Bristol,
5
UK,
years.
UK.
Yeah. So yes, it all depends on your subject area, but use the CROP test, okay? Humanities tends to be in the middle, and sometimes you have to refer back to previous research that was carried out a long time ago.
Okay. Thank you, Kel. This is a question from Didi Ali Imran. Before the question before, and is there any other participant that wants to deliver the question, because some question in the form is has the same substance, yeah. So is there any question, the other question from the participants? Okay, I think there's no question again.
Okay. But no, thank you. There were some really good questions there.
Yes,
and I hope you've found the information I talked about useful for your research. And I hope to see you all again in a future when we can talk about some different types of research strategies that you can use to help plan and manage your time as well. I could talk for a very long time about research. I'm very passionate about it, and I've researched many different things, whether it's been academic research or research in my career. Then I've got lots of practice that I can share with you. But it's been great talking to you all.
Okay.
Thank you, Afan.
Thank you for the very interesting topic. So it's a very good insight to know where is the reliable resource and the CREP method that I get from you, Kel. So thank you again, and I'm sorry for all the inconvenience or there's mistakes for me. Thank you again, and we go back to the Mbak Devi.
Thanks,
Thank
Afan.
you. Thank you, Pak Afan and Gail. Yeah, thank you for all participants that has a question and also keep on this Zoom room until the end. And before we close this session, I was mentioning about the UWI Bristol. So I should like make it longer so you know what is UWI Bristol is. UWI Bristol is University of the West of England and located in Bristol. And we would like to have Gail and also maybe Mbak Trifty here to introduce more about UWI Bristol, because for information for all of you participants here, we start collaboration and we are going to process for further collaboration. So if you have later on questions or interested to about UWI Bristol, or may I contact Gail? If you have email, can be shared here, Gail, if the students want to ask about all the research or questions.
Yes.
And also ask about, yeah, thank you. And all ask about the UWI Bristol to Mbak Trifty here. Miss Trifty, would you like to? Yeah, I give you the
Yes,
floor.
Ms.
You
Devi.
can introduce yourself and introduce about UI Bristol.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for having University of the West of England or UW Bristol for being here. Gail and I are from UW Bristol, and I'm going to share some pictures about our university. So it's nice to show you the university's pictures. So I'm Indonesian. I'm based in Jakarta. So if you want to talk about collaboration, just drop me email or contact me because I'm in Indonesia actually. So UW Bristol or University of the West of England. It's located in Bristol City. Have you been to the UK before? So it's not really far from
Yeah,
London. Just okay. So it's just next to London, 90 minutes from London. And this is the picture of our university. This is the map of the Bristol city. We have three campuses. We have Frenchay campus, we have Glenside campus, and we have City campus. So this is Frenchay campus. So all about business courses will be delivered here. And Frenchay campus also consists of School of Engineering. So all of engineering courses are here in Frenchay campus, our main campus. And we have City campus. City campus is for art, design, cultural industries, filming. So all of the cultural industries are here in City campus. And the last one is Glenside campus. So in Glenside campus, everything related to healthcare will be here. That's a short introduction from University of the West of England. So yeah, thank you, Ms. Devi, for inviting University of the West of England for being here. And I also appreciate Gail, my colleague, to be here and share any knowledge about research. Over to you, Devi.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Trifty. It's a really honor for us to have you here, both as we just start our collaboration and we asked to have you to deliver this in the session. Gail, do you have anything to add?
I've just had a question in the chat about the presentation, so I will send a copy of the presentation to Tripti. Tripti will pass it on, and if you could distribute it to all of the students, I think it would be useful for them. Quite a few students have asked for it, and I'm just popping my email in the chat if any of you want to contact me and ask any questions. Then I'm happy to answer anything that you would like. Oh, I will try. But yes, there's my email in the chat. So if you have any questions about research, about UWE Bristol, but I will provide a copy of the presentation and the links to the videos as well for you.
Okay, thank you. We really appreciate it. So I hope this first step can be like a bigger step for our collaboration later.
Yes, yes, and I hope to come back and talk some more. I'd really like to do some more sessions with the students about research. So yeah.
Thank you. So before we close, we also want to give a certificate, and we would like to also send you certificate, a hard copy, or through maybe Miss Thrifty, or because we have the hard copy signed by our rector. So this is a certificate for you. So, but we will send you the hard copy.
Thank you. Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. And also, we would like to thank to Pak Afan for moderating us today. And this is certificate for Pak Afan. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to, oh, I forgot one thing that we always have, a group picture. So, yeah. So can we have like 3 slides of group picture? Okay, everyone put your biggest smile. I will count. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the other one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, once more. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 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 Thank you for all the participants for keeping to join this event from the first session until the 12th session. Actually, the compulsory is 5 sessions, including this one. I hope to see you in the next semester. I hope to see you, Gail, and also Miss Trifty again.
Yeah.
So for the next semester. And thank you. Don't forget to fill out the feedback form. Okay, thank you,
Yes.
everyone. Yeah.
I
Yes,
was
Gail,
going to
do
just
you want to add?
yeah, fill in the feedback form because
Yeah.
it's really useful for all of us, so we can design sessions like these for students.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in this event this afternoon, the last event of R2SEP this semester. I hope to see you again, and bye. Good afternoon, everyone. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Great to meet you all.
Thank you, Mrs. Gill.